Rightio, folks. Let's give this context before I throw to this cross Benji Marshall with the press conference today. As an ex-Tiger and a mate of Benji Marshall, insert Bruce. So I'm Brucing here. However, we've got to do our job. Benji's doing his job. Everyone's trying to do their job. I was on the public record saying it was the wrong call. Why would you give a job to a person who has never coached at any level on their own and you throw them a first-grade job? So I was highly critical of that. And I have been ever since, right? And the results have largely followed that. However, things are changing this year. I personally think, and as I said, I really like Benji Marshall. I hope if he's listening to this, he's receiving it the right way. I actually think that we had a text come through the other day, and it said something along the lines of the best sailors are made in rough seas. And Benji Marshall's got rough seas coming at him right now. When I asked a former teammate around, holy dooly, what the hell are they doing appointing Benji Marshall? He's never coached a single game in any age group on his own. And the person who's very well respected replied, mate, he's a winner, he'll work it out. Maybe he's working it out. And maybe he is because the team's going quite well. And this press conference, I've got to say, I listened to this press conference, and Claire Bear's saying that Tigers currently have no PR manager. I listened to this press conference, and I thought to myself, it echoed those comments from my mate. He said he might work it out. Well, this press conference, in my opinion, and not forgetting, you very rarely see this, the journalists were clapping at the end of it. When do you see a press conference when journalists are clapping at the end of it? Has Benji Marshall worked it out? For me, this, and I'm going to be critical about one thing the West Tigers have done, but for me, this was absolutely brilliantly held. It was honest. It was a brilliant thing. And this could be the making of Benji Marshall. And on the back of this, I left this thinking, West Tigers are absolute. I know Mitch Moses is back. He was on the show yesterday. West Tigers, in my opinion, are absolute morals. This could be the making, these words, for Benji Marshall.
At the end of the day, and I said this to the players, you can't be angry or be against someone for choosing something they think is best for their future. And I've said it to everyone I've ever coached is, when it comes to negotiations, you have to do what's best for you. So, and that's lucky. So no one's angry about that. Oh, look, I was shocked by it, no doubt. And then a little bit disappointed, but at the same time, everyone thinks I can't coach anyway. So it's not that different to what's been said, So all I can say is, he's played some pretty good footy in the last 12 months. Whether that's because of me or because of him, who knows? But he got the Prime Minister's 13 Rookie of the Year, and we revolved a lot of things around him. And I still think he's a great player, don't get me wrong. He owes me nothing. He owes our club nothing. At the end of the day, it is what it is. People move on, people come and go, but the club's bigger. The thing for us is we got him for the next 18 months. So he's got to get through this game, put himself in the frame for selection next week, and then go from there.
I've had a lot to say there, Kempy. What do you think about Benji's comments?
Mate, I think he handled it absolutely perfectly. He wasn't on the back foot. He wasn't. He didn't allow the journalists in their environment to dictate the energy of the conference. He was honest. He was open. I thought he was really smart because they kept asking him, do you know what will happen in this? Or do you know what would happen in that? And he just shut it straight down. He said, guys, you keep asking me these questions about things that I don't know, I have no control over. And it's really smart because that's a really common tactic to go, do you know what will happen if this happens? And if a coach answers, there's your headline. Boom. Yep. There's a story that's been created. And I just thought Benji handled it really, really well. He was honest. And I love the fact that you didn't see a guy up there that was scorned that a young 19-year-old basically said he can't coach. Or at the very least, if you want to be really, really generous to Lachie Galvin, couldn't coach to the standard Lachie Galvin wanted. Yep. Which I know sounds a bit weird as a 19-year-old saying that. And it would be very easy for a coach that was not confident in himself to be rattled by all the talk around his coaching abilities. But that sounded like a man that was still confident in his coaching abilities. Yeah. There was no ego involved. He could have very easily gone straight away, hang on a sec, this kid wouldn't be getting offered millions of dollars if I didn't see his ability. When he signed with the Tigers, he was on a Jersey Flegg deal. Yep. Then all of a sudden, they went out and signed other halves on big deals. So Benji had every incentive to not debut him. He had guys on bigger contracts that would be expected from the higher-ups to say, Benji, why are we signing Bud Sullivan or Fianu on 600, 400K when you're about to play a bloke that's not even on a top 30 contract right now? And yet he pushed so hard for Lachie Galvin, they actually had to upgrade him to a top 30 deal at the start of 2024. And so he signed a 3-year deal when he did that. And it was, I think it's like 250 to 350 at the last year.
Which when he signed it, Kempy, he and his family would have been wrapped. What about this big contract?
And that's the
signed?
frustration I have with Lachie Galvin and his camp.
Yep.
When you had no options and you were just a whippersnapper coming through and had never played first grade, Benji was good enough for you then. Then you make your debut, within 5 to 6 rounds, you're already asking for releases. They kowtow to you immediately, because the thing that I get worried about is when he played that 5 games, his team or his management all of a sudden said, we got a cash cow on our hands. You're all of a sudden on way less than you should be on, because he had signed that deal before he played first grade.
Yes.
So he plays 5 to 6 games. All of a sudden he's asking for releases. I've never heard a rookie be that unhappy that quickly.
Yep.
Unless he's getting fed some really poor, I guess, information from people outside. Don't get me wrong,
And by the way, sorry, just on that, and I don't know Isaac Moses so well. If it's his camp who was saying, "Oh, mate, they got you cheap here," mate, you got me that deal. Like we
100%.
thought it was all a great deal at that time.
But managers never do that, do they?
No.
They don't walk in and say, you know what, Lachie, I actually didn't do my job properly. I got you the wrong deal.
Yeah.
It's all more of, hey, mate, you're worth way more. Let's go ask for more. Anyway, maybe that didn't happen. Maybe he is the one rookie that I've seen after 5 games. Mate, usually after 5 games, any rookie I've ever played with or ever had anything to do with is just stoked to be there.
Yep.
I don't know how you can go from 5 to 10 games stoked to be there all of a sudden to want to leave. Anyway, that happens. They kowtow to him. They don't leak any of the negative stuff to the press, the Tigers. They go, no, it's fine, nothing to see here. No. They could have easily leaked a lot of stuff to make Lachie Galvin and his camp look bad. They didn't. Then they get to the new year, and all of a sudden, things have blown up to a point where he can't be there. And contract-wise, Lachie Galvin's done nothing wrong.
No.
But pub test-wise, he hasn't handled it the best. And
No.
I know he's still young. I know he's 19. But at the end of the day, as a 19-year-old, you're old enough to know what's going on. Now, do I hold him as accountable as a 30-year-old? Absolutely not. Of course not.
Yep.
He is still 19. We've all done silly things when we're 19. But I think that his best bet now is, if he wants to recover his reputation long-term, he first needs to be working on the playing group he's currently got. If he can fight his way back into a Tigers jersey, that will go a long way to getting forgiveness from everyone else.
Yep.
And then when he does move on, maybe this won't carry won't be much of a burden for him long-term, because if this current Tigers playing group can forgive him, then I think a lot of other people will go, okay, look, young fella, didn't handle things perfectly, but, it's within his right to want to be somewhere else if he wants to be. And I think that should be his main goal. But in regards to Tigers, I think they've handled outstandingly. I really do. I think that this is the first time in a very long time, mate, maybe even a decade, where the Tigers have said, you know what? Yeah, okay, we might have one of the best young rookies in the comp, so much so that he's worth over $1 million on the market. But we're going to stand strong on what we've built here, and whether it hurts us and whether we don't make the 8 this year, we're still going to go forward with standing on some principles. I think for the long term, it's going to be a real win for the club.
Well said, Kempy, and not forgetting what Bears head Fletcher talks. He tells a story about when all those Bulldogs, they left McCracken, Pay, Smith, and listen, there was 4 of them. There was 4 of them. McCracken, Pay, Smith, and Dimmick all left the Dogs. They went to Parramatta, and heads were all falling off. Chris Anderson all got them together and said, hey, boys, let's have a few beers together. Let's sort it out. And on to a grand final they went. So
there you go.
You can turn things around. There's no doubt about that. As I said, this is the first time on the public record that I am buying shares in Benji Marshall. I thought it was handled perfectly. That said, I am not anti-Team Galvin. I've got some thoughts where I think the West Tigers have got it dramatically wrong. Now, let's just keep marching on with this. Before we do so, though, there's a million texts coming through. We're very grateful for those. So many coming through. Put your names on them, folks, and we'll try and get to them as many as we can. But there was one that caught your attention or agitation.
No, it caught my attention because I think that there's a lot of people that haven't played rugby league in a first grade capacity don't understand the environment and how intense it can be. So I got a text here, no ego. He dropped him to the reserve grade. That's from a text that came in. I think that once a player questions a club's ability to develop him as a player. If you're standing beside that guy, you're basically, when you go out and play rugby league, I know this sounds dramatic to the wider audience, but it's almost like, it's not like going to war, like as in actual war, but you go on a battle with your brothers. So much so that you're going to put your body on the line for the bloke beside you no matter what. And once a player comes out and had his statement that he had, the reason why Benji would have needed to drop him with the senior playing group is a lot of players would have looked across and said, I'm not putting my body on the line for you, mate. You said that you don't want to be here. So how can I do that? Until you show me that you do really want to be here, then unfortunately I can't do that. So the reason why he would have got dropped was not because he's not good, not out of spite. It would have been, the players would have said, mate, I can't play next to a bloke that's not willing to, that doesn't want to be here. Literally doesn't want to be here so bad, he said, don't even bother offering me a contract.
Yeah.
I think until he earns that respect back, then I think eventually he'll get back into the side. He's just got to show the boys that he wants to be there.
Okay, for now, he's not in the side. He's been dropped, and I've got some comments about that, but so too does the West Tigers coach, Benji Marshall, on dropping Lachie Galvin this week to the New South Wales Cup. So he's off to Lidcombe at this stage. Here's what Benji had to say.
To clear things up, I called the meeting with the senior players. And I think it's important, as the coach, that you got the support of the group. I had a decision in my mind, and if they changed my decision, then I would have changed it if it was best for the team. But we made that decision. I made that decision, and I had the support of them. So I don't have to justify why I make selections for the team. If I think it's best for the team to win and get the result this weekend, that's the decision, and that's the same every week. And I make selections for the team, so that doesn't need a waiver. And just because you want to know everything, we don't have to tell everything. And I've never said any week why or why not someone's playing.
Can you accept that it looks a bit like sour grapes?
You can look however you want.
Okay, so I do believe Benji Marshall handled that press conference as well as any coach in the comp could have held it. It was sublime. It was absolutely perfect. But you'll later hear comments from Jarome Luai and Appy and Benji on the dropping of Galvin. And I totally accept and appreciate him saying, I'm picking the side for what I think can win this week. And I actually reckon he's right, and I think he's going to get a big win. I think he's pulled the right card. However, and I'm not going to say I told you so, but we had Team List Tuesday, and to me, it was so bloody obvious that, okay, don't play the kid, right? Don't play him, but do not name him in New South Wales Cup. What is the upside of naming him in New South Cup? Just don't do it. Just come out straight away and say, listen, we're giving Lachie the week off. We feel like the team this week will be better without him than distractions. He maybe needs some time. It's a big week for a 19-year-old, and we're now getting comments around mental welfare and all that sort of stuff. If it is about mental welfare, right, and we do have concern about Lachie Galvin and his welfare and his family, why the hell would we send him to Lidcombe to play reserve grade, right? That is wrong. And you know what? I'm going to go on the record here. I bet you he doesn't play in that game. I bet you he doesn't. And I hope to God it's not him having to say, oh, look, I'm not up for this game. The club has to come forward and say, they've been everywhere publicly saying it's his mental welfare. Well, don't make him go to Lidcombe Oval playing reserve grade. That's every chance of injury. He should not have been named. He should not be playing. I'm very comfortable with him not being in the side this week. But why would you put him in reserve grade? It is so stupid. It's not too late to fix it. But we said, Brian and I, before the teams were announced, don't pick him. That's fine. Do not name him in reserve grade. Now you are declaring war. I'm so against that.
Really, Shug, I feel differently, mate.
Okay,
I feel differently.
Okay, why?
I just think, mate, you're a paid professional.
Right.
Your job is to play rugby league for that club.
Yep.
I just think that he should be paying to earn the respect back of the boys.
So you just told me how hard this sport is, right?
Yeah.
Right. Have you played any games when you are not mentally 100% there? Is that healthy to go and do that?
Yeah, but I feel like, look, if let's say, for example, he had a family loss or something like that, I think that is very understandable. But transfers and contract talk is part of the business. It's part of your job. So to say this has become too much, even though he was the one that instigated it by saying, don't even give me any offer, I don't know. I feel like he should go back and play for reserve grade. Now, granted, if he sits down with them and reports like, I'm really struggling mentally, of course you don't play him. But if he is fine, I reckon you play him.
Mate, journalists, right, and journalists can be, and we'd be included as that as well, they'll search their name on social media and they'll say, somebody told me that this was sent to me when they found it themselves, right? So that's annoying him, a little tweet or something like that. This kid, 18 months ago, no one really knew who Lachie Galvin was. Now, every radio station, every rugby league TV station, everyone is talking about it. If he searched his name, you wouldn't have enough days to go through. Like, I think people are underestimating how much pressure this kid could be under.
But is that the club's fault or is that his management's fault for instigating the situation?
I'm not saying whose fault it is. I'm just saying, really, if we genuinely care about his welfare, right, like seriously, he's the fittest kid maybe we've ever seen in rugby league. Do you actually need him? What's the upside of sending Lachie Galvin to Lidcombe Oval, putting the West jersey on? Like, you're trying to punish him. He's getting punished already through media. Like, a lot of people are in his corner. A lot of people are not, and that has to weigh a toll. This guy's not Batman. He's a human. He's not a robot. And I just think it's so wrong that we would ask a 19-year-old and at the same time come out and say, oh, yeah, he's welfare, we're all behind him. Well, no. If you're behind him, if anyone else in the workplace, if you're a builder, if you had a kid who was struggling or maybe a mental welfare situation, you'd give him the day off. Give him the day off. It is stupid that he'll play.
Has the club come out and said he's struggling mentally?
No, but they've come out and said we're concerned for him. He's
the
only
club
young.
said that, or
no, in these press conferences. Okay, let's hear what Benji had to say.
I don't think he's been bullied by the other players. I think emotional responses to things happening might seem like it, but there's been no sense of bullying at our club, and we don't stand for bullying. And I talked to the team about it this morning. That's not us. Okay, so we're not bullies. Our players are not bullies. They had emotional reactions to one of their teammates, but it's not bullying. I can guarantee it. I spoke to Lachie this morning, very closely, and I actually really feel sorry for him. He's a young kid who wants to do what's best for his future. Now, the reaction's been overwhelming for him, and I can understand that. I've been through his shoes and understand what that's like and what the pressure's like. Okay, but what we got to remember is he's a 19-year-old kid who just loves footy. And then this has been made out to be a lot bigger than what it is for everyone, and I understand the emotion and the enormity of the way the fans feel, the way the club feel, the way everyone feels. It is big, but he's a kid, okay. And my point is, we need to stop talking about this for his sake too. We're moving on for next week. We need to play this week and move on to next week, and that's what he needs to do too.
Okay, so you know what will help move him on is not having record-breaking cameras for the first time at Lidcombe Oval since. Wayne Pearce was out there, Tommy Radonicus was out there, those great Western Suburbs players were out there.
Do you think he's ready for $1 million deal, though, if he's not ready for this kind of exposure and that?
I'm not saying that. And this is the number one thing you'll get coming through. Oh, come on, Joel, he's earning $350,000. I'm digging trenches and doing that. Well, I'll also say to that anyone who is young earning $350,000, they have probably worked their backside off for a long, long time to get to this situation. Whether you're in finance, whether you are in IT, whatever the case may be, I don't cop that as a comment because he's probably sacrificed a lot more than everyone else. But the money thing is irrelevant. So Justin Bieber, word was he's struggling. So is he not allowed to struggle because he's got unlimited money? This is tough on a young kid. It is big on a young kid. And Benji Marshall pretty much shared that. In my opinion, he should not be at Lidcombe Oval. He should be laying on the lounge on that particular Monday, watching his team go around and just digesting it all in. But anyway, I could be wrong. Brad the Owl's been waiting patiently. G'day, Bradley.
How are you, Joel?
I'm excellent, mate. Half the audience are loving what I'm saying. Half are saying, turn his bloody mic off.
It's a tough one. I think both sides could have handled it a hell of a lot better. I think there's probably a few things that the Galvin camp could have held off and perhaps not said, even though they were feeling it, and we wouldn't have needed to know about it because some of that stuff's pretty inflammatory, and it makes you sort of think, who the hell are you saying that at such an age? Even though he has a right to think whatever the hell he wants. I think Benji handled that really well today. I didn't think they would have done as well as he did today. I thought that was really good. As a business owner, I always kind of go with the business, which is the team. I kind of think, you go for the employer, not the employee most of the time. But look, it's a tough one. He's got a target on his back based on the advice that he was given from people that he's trusted, and now he's got this target on his back, and I sort of feel for him in that regard. But see how he goes, isn't it, really?
I happen to know Brad the Owl. And you want to learn from this, Brad, because your son might be going through something similar in about 5 or 6 years, mate. So what do you think about that, Kempy?
Mate, it's absolutely right. It's such a tough situation because technically, Galvin's done nothing wrong. Technically.
Yep.
The contract, he's more than within his rights to say, I don't want to be here. For example, we've heard plenty of players say, I want to play under Bellamy. I want to play under Bennett.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just dressed up a little bit differently. And I think it's the dressing up of Benji can't coach is the real, and also the don't even bother offering me anything. They're the two areas where you go, technically he hasn't done anything wrong, but morally, morally is a strong word, but it's just been handled poorly from the Galvin camp in that regard. I think from the Tigers' point of view, I actually think the office has handled it okay, but just this Taruva coming out. I didn't mind the Luai post because that was very team first, sending a strong message to the fans. Yeah, we've had a player kind of essentially disrespect the club and the playing group, but I'm here and I want to go forward with the boys. I think the Taruva one was a bit silly. I know it was just to his friends. That was silly. He shouldn't have done that, and I think that's what's complicated a lot of it.
I love that Benji conceded that.
For sure. I think, as with the caller Brad Diel, I think Benji actually handled it better than I thought he would handle it too.
Brilliant.
I thought he really controlled the energy of the room too, and made it feel real, didn't feel like a politician talking. And so I also agree with him as well. Like, this is a 19-year-old kid. Like, think back to when you were 19. When I was 19, I did so many dumb things. Much, probably worse than what he's done. I just didn't do it in public.
Would you have been ready to go and play reserve grade as a 19-year-old with every single person?
In our generation, there wouldn't even been a question.
No.
It would have been like, mate, you better earn our trust. Get out of first grade. Matter of fact, they would have dropped us back to reserve grade training.
But also wouldn't have blown up anywhere near as big.
Yeah, I don't think so. I just think look, if he is mentally struggling, absolutely don't play him, mate. Yeah. Send him home, get his mental health right, because that at the end of the day, I know that people like to toss that out as like being important, but it really is important. We are playing rugby league here. We're not
exactly right.
We're not saving lives. However, I don't think he's in that headspace yet, and I think getting him out there and just playing footy again and just because he loves footy.
Yeah,
it's his favourite part.
I get that.
But it's a complicated issue because, you're dealing with a young man. Like, if we were dealing with a 30-year-old, I think it'd be pretty cut and dry. You're a dickhead. What'd you do that for? Pull your head in.
You know what it comes down to, ultimately? We all parent differently, but I reckon if you ask Galvin's parents, would you like Lachie to play this week, reserve grade at Lidcombe Oval? And they would say, I guess, absolutely not. The kid needs a rest. He's been through an unusual, unprecedented week.
Would be pretty incredible, though. Like, I agree with you. If his parents didn't want to be, would be pretty incredible, though. If he goes down and kills it, shows the mental fortitude of the young fella if he went down and killed it.
Yep.
Could silence a lot of noise, too.
Yeah, could do. I just don't see the upside personally. But let's go to the open line. 1300 01 1170. We've had plenty to say, so you can have your say. Let's start in Cronulla where Anthony's there. G'day, Anthony.
Top of the afternoon, guys.
How are you? Great, man?
Good, brother. Good, mate. You're 100% right. You're totally wrong about Lachie Galvin. He should be playing reserve grade.
Oh.
If he's the $1 million man, his management thinks he's the $1 million man, or he thinks he's the $1 million man, or they both think he's the $1 million man, he should be able to handle this. And secondly, it's not as if reserve grades, C grade golf. This is, a lot of people will be dreaming to get to reserve grade. Get in there, have a crack, play some footy, get over it.
Okay, well, let me frame it this way for you, Anthony. How does this come across then? So he's leaving the club, so the senior players say, we don't want to play with you right now. So what does that say? But you can go and play with our other mates we train with for the West Magpies. Is that fair on the West Magpies? If the West Tigers don't want to play with him, is that fair on the West Magpies that they're caught up with him if that's the case?
Take a leaf out of Benji's book. Look, I don't want to think about what other people are thinking.
Yep.
All I know is...
Oh, good answer.
Hey, Zing, I don't think he's the best pick. Let's go and have a run around park footy, work your skills, build your resilience, come on back when you're ready to have a crack.
No, don't mind that, Anthony. I can't be sold. I see zero upside in him playing reserve grade at this stage. Let's go to the Duke. The Duke's out there at Bronte. Hey, Duke.
Yeah, Dylan, you said before he needs to work his way back into first grade.
Oh, I didn't say that. I didn't say that, Duke.
Well, Denan did. Denan did several times. He needs to work his way back into first grade. Mm-hmm. Why was he dropped? Form?
He was dropped for disrespecting... Why was he dropped? For disrespect.
No. Yeah. So it's got nothing to do with his form. It's got nothing to do with his ability. This kid has made the pile on from you guys, the bullying across the media, not just you, the whole lot of you.
Bullying
has been appalling, right? This kid has done nothing but inform the club that he's not going to sign a new contract with them.
Have you read
if he was my son, you've got kids.
Yep.
I've got kids, right?
Yep.
If my kid came to me and said, look, what we're going to do is we're going to get the best deal for you in the best opportunity, right? And what you're basically saying is he should have shut up and signed the contract and been a good boy because they gave him the best. They gave him his stuff.
No, we're not saying that at all. No. Have you read? Are you going to let us talk? Are you going to let us talk? Have you read the article? The article that was released after this drop from the Tigers was Michael Chammas speaking to Lachie Galvin's team. Where Lachie Galvin's team said that they don't have any faith in Benji Marshall being a good enough coach to take him to the next level. So the issue is that he has come out and made Benji Marshall be put in question whether he's a good coach or not. Then he was quoted, Lachie Galvin was quoted saying that he doesn't believe the club and this current playing group can take him to the next level. So that's the issue. There's no issue with the young fella looking at it going, guys, I want to play for somewhere else. The issue is disrespecting the club and Benji Marshall and the playing group. That's the concern.
The club has also disrespected him by going to market in the first place to say that he no longer has a position there, firstly.
Just to be clear, just to be clear, Galvin said to them, don't bother offering me anything, I'm not saying. That's what happened.
And where is the problem with that, Denan?
There's no problem with that. The club came out and said...
There seems to be a big problem with that.
No, the problem is with disrespecting Benji Marshall and the playing group. That's the problem.
He hasn't been dropped because of form. He's been dropped because they didn't like what he said to them.
Correct.
Right?
No,
you said at the start of this, he needs to work his way back up into the team.
No, to earn trust.
To earn trust and respect from the boys that he said that aren't good enough for his development.
A vindictive bullying play by the club.
I feel like you're not answering us when we say what the problem was. So you have no problem with the young 19-year-old.
We've all read the timeline.
So Benji's job. Duke. And firstly, I need to say this, Duke. I have not said not one single comment that is anti-Galvin's stance. Right? I've only believed that he shouldn't be playing this week. I think it's best for him. So I've not said, and if you can find a clip where I have said he's in the wrong or have erred once, then feel free to do that. But I have not done that. I just don't see the upside in him playing this weekend. I just really don't.
Well, as a Parramatta fan, right, we've got Dylan Brown. Dylan Brown had a 10-year contract, 10-year contract, and has pulled, right? He hasn't been as harshly criticised or done over as this poor kid who just said, I'm not going to sign a new contract with you.
But Dylan Brown didn't say the coach couldn't coach and the playing group wasn't good enough for his development. That's the key, mate. The key that you're not noticing.
No, but it's a he said, she said at times.
No, he was quoted. Boys. He was quoted saying it. Galvin said it. He literally said, I believe that me going to another club is best for my rugby league.
And also in his statement, he did not refute those claims. So, look, I get that. But again, he's entitled to say what he wants, but he's also played a part in putting himself in this situation. We must go on, Duke. We appreciate your call and your thoughts. And you know what? Ears Up Radio, this is what you're going to get. People just disagree. Denan and I have disagreed for 45 minutes.
It's a three-way disagreement, mate.
It is. It's a triangle. The disagreement triangle. Anyway, Sammy Stone Street's coming up. Let's do some NRL news, shall you? You'll be shocked what we're talking about on the other side of this.
It's an NRL news update thanks to Rogers Willex, trailer air brake axles, suspensions and couplings.
Okay, I really want to... I'm fatigued like you, but we need to get the whole of the story. Jarome Luai has had his say, the co-captain on Benji Marshall. Has he been disrespected? Let's get through this and let's march on resolutely to other sporting topics. But in the meantime, we've got to get past all of this. The Galvin fog, which remains on radio. Here's Jarome Luai.
I think as a playing group, mid-year, we're trying to do all we do best and try and get wins on the board and improve this club's position. But he's our coach, and at the end of the day, if you disrespect him, you're sort of disrespecting us as a team. So I don't stand for that.
Has he been disrespected, Jerome?
Coach?
Yeah.
With what's been said, I think he has. But that's been dealt with internally. And right now, like I said, I've got a job to do this weekend, and I'm really excited for Easter Monday.
Have you talked to Lachie about your feelings of disrespect towards the coach?
Nah, I don't think that's my job, and I think he's, hopefully he's got a good team around him, and he's getting the things he needs to sorted. But like I said, I've got a team to run, and that's what's most important.
Okay, Jarome Luai was also pressed on his Instagram post, #TeamFirst, and his relationship with Lachie Galvin.
Did you explain your post the other day, Jerome, Team First? Can you explain your thinking behind that?
Yeah, I just try and support behind coach, behind what we stand for as a club, and moving forward, if anything happens like this, we're working hard to have team first behaviours and making sure that's built from the bottom up. My relationship with it's been good up until this point. I've enjoyed playing with him, and I thought we've worked really hard up until this point. He's playing good footy, and the team is going well, so no feelings lost there. Definitely no hard feelings. Like what's been said, everyone's entitled to do what they think is best for their future. There's been no dramas around that, so I've got a job to do this weekend. I've got a team to run, and that's at the forefront for me.
Then pressed on the team meeting, which Benji had called the senior players. They ultimately met up as a team, and Jarome Luai, co-captain, was pressed on this.
I'm not going to elaborate, but where did you get those reports from?
Well, someone wrote it. Someone said it, actually.
Yeah, well, that stays in-house. That's a team thing, and I think it should stay that way.
And is it true that you've done with the group or spoke to the group about you're happy to play second fiddle to Lachie and let him play his game, and it's something that you were happy to, I guess, put the team first in that situation? Is that the case?
It's always team first for me. You see the post, but I'm not going to talk to you guys about what I've said to my team. And, that's why I'm here, bro. I'm a team first dude, but it's not about me.
Okay, we are racing through these, but we have spoken a lot about Galvin, so we're trying to get to the end of this. Jarome Luai on his own contract clauses. So who's to say Jarome couldn't find himself, providing that he stays loyal to Benji, in a similar situation? Here's Jarome.
Jarome, can you give some clarity around your own contract? You've got some flexibility to manoeuvre if you want to. Any update as far as staying long-term at the club?
I'm here. I'm here for the long haul, and I hope I'm showing that through my actions. That's the loudest way to speak.
I think that's a bit of a red herring there because, again, the issue from the playing group isn't that he's leaving. It's the fact that his team and Galvin have publicly undermined Benji Marshall while they can still make finals. That's the key issue. Not whether he leaves or not. No, I promise. I've spoken to the players. I promise you, and this was yesterday, they have no issue with him getting cash. Trust me, they've got no issue. Matter of fact, they support it because they're players too, of course, that want to earn heaps of cash too. Trust me.
You own a house in a street and next door neighbour and down the road sells for a record. You're happy with that? Exactly.
I mean, for example, you reckon the number sixes around the league weren't stoked for Dylan Brown? Because that's what it did.
Yep.
It raised the ship for everyone else.
Yep, all ships rise with the tide.
Yep, absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So there you go. We haven't heard a lot from Appy. It was predominantly the way of Jarome Luai, but Appy was also asked around Galvin and if he was bullied.
Yeah, look, I think as a team, one of our team values is team first. We built a whole pre-season on it, and I shared my opinions. And someone's hard to them. It's hard to take the field with him every week. Sometimes they just need a break as well. And at the end of the day, I've got some guys fighting. We're trying to get this club out of a hole that we've been in for the last 3 years with wooden spoons. So yeah, everyone's out there ready to fight for it. So.
Do you think he wasn't ready to fight for it? Is that this week it was?
Don't know. A lot of stuff's come out in the media. It's really tough for a 19-year-old to go through all of that and have to play rugby league as well. So yeah, I wasn't quite sure.
Happy, has he been bullied? That's been the word that's been used.
No.
Okay, so the point I said at the top there, really tough for a 19-year-old to go through this and play footy. West Tigers, please withdraw this kid from this reserve grade game.
I will say the Taruva thing, that wasn't called for.
No, but they've owned that.
I know that, but when, that for a 19-year-old, I just think that's when I really felt for Galvin.
Yep.
Because it was just, that was a bit, it's too much. Whereas, so I do understand if that's rattled Galvin a little bit because I think the Luai one, it's very much, look, back of my coach, team first.
It wasn't a shot.
It wasn't a shot.
No.
And I think Galvin could understand that. But the other ones, very specifically of him, that's where I was like, mate, he's a 19-year-old. Like, let's just chill. I know Tito didn't mean to get it out to everywhere, but still, just don't bother with it. Don't bother with it.
This time last week, I had the bet with the Newcastle Knight fan who rang up that I would run a kilometre for every point the West Tigers lost by. This one comes through, Joel. If you think the Tigers are morals, are you running a kilometre again for every point they lose by?
Uh-oh.
Oh, there's a little voice in my head who loves to
Don't be a coward. Do it, mate. I'm growing a bloody goatee.
Hey, listen, Gemma, let me think about that. Look, we've got so many texts coming through, and I really want to get off this subject, but the tourist is captain today, and he's going, we're going to get a record-breaking amount of texts while I'm in the seat, which is actually happening. So we are getting the odd text saying, get off Galvin, please, but a lot of you want to have your say, so it is very torn. We'll have a little break shortly and decide whether we do get off the Galvin subject or we don't. I'm very, very torn about that. I'm very, very torn about the bet as to whether I should do that. Just on that, though, this could make or break Benji Marshall. If they fall in a hole, this could really break him. But that said, conversely, if they blast out of this and go on a run and they're resolute and, no pun intended, galvanised, mate, it could make him.
Well, no, I think the key is this. Galvin could be right. Like, Galvin could absolutely be right that another club is... And you know what? Like, I do think he's going to go and have a bloody good career. again, I think the key is just the way it's been handled. It's not neither whether he's right or he's wrong or whatever. It's just how it's been handled. Could have been smoother. And if you want to blame both parties, that's fine. I just think, I just worry that a young man has been put in the middle of a manager trying to blow things up for an early release.
Okay, crystal ball this. We get to October, mid-October, and all the players are now having a break. What happened in this story? How did this story finish come October? How do you think this story ends?
You know what?
What happens to Galvin? How did the Tigers' season finish?
So I've met Galvin.
Yep.
He's a lovely young kid, at least in my experience.
Yep.
I can't say I'm friends with him. I've met him, and he was absolutely so charming, very polite, great young kid. I think he's going to want to go back. He's going to go back to reserve grade. He's going to kill it. I think he's probably already had a conversation with Luai and Appy and said, you know what, mate, once the boys explained to him what his words may have meant, I think he's going, you know what, boys, you know I don't feel that way. You know I don't feel that way. I think that they're going to see how much he's wants to be part of the crew. He'll get back into the first grade within the next month. He'll probably be playing first grade. Next month to 6 weeks, he'll be playing first grade again.
He will finish the year as a West Tiger, is your guess?
I think so, because I think that there's no one out there on the salary. There's no one out there on the market right now you could play a swap for him that you could get for 300,
Correct. Yeah,
250K.
That's the thing.
Yep. Mate, get him back in there. I think he wants to be in there. You saw I'm not suggesting a few pitches tell you how Galvin's feeling, but he looked happy. He was hugging the boys today, and as I said, I'm not suggesting that means that he's totally fine, but it looked like everything was okay. At least it wasn't so frosty. He wasn't at the thing. I think he goes back. I think he kills it because he's a gun.
Yep.
I think he goes, you know what, boys, I get where you're coming from. Let's mend this and let's have a bloody good season to finish. And then maybe next year he finds somewhere else. But even then, maybe it's a whole year there playing first grade and they make the top 6 or something next year. I don't know.
Yep. Okay. Short term crystal ball. Come Monday, this game against Parramatta, playing for West Magpies, where he's named in the number 6. Did he play? If he did play, did he carve up? If he did play, did he not play so well because he's distracted? Or did he just not play? He was a late withdrawal.
Mate, he played. He had 2 try assists, and he ran for over 150 metres. Lock it in.
Okay, there you go,
Lock it in.
folks.
He killed it.
There you go, folks. All righty, let's move on. The run home with Joel and Fletch. What, you're still here? Well, you can see more on the Joel and Fletch socials and catch us live on SEN Radio, you beautiful humans.